Good morning, Todd,
Good
the
morning, Molly. Yeah,
Toddfather.
Toddfather. I love that. That's great.
Good morning. I'm Molly, and I'd like to welcome you to The Angle, a GRS series highlighting our instructors shaping the 2026 class season. Let's go. Tell me what you've been up to.
I do a lot of projects, done a little bit of teaching, trying to think towards the future for GRS for some interesting ideas for classes. Been working on that a lot. So then I can start thinking about what we may need or what we might not need, and basically even improve my classes. I feel like every year I want to improve myself as well. I want to help my students be the best they can be, but I also want to try to help myself to be the best teacher I can be. That's really important to me because I want them to succeed, and that's number one priority.
This year, you're teaching two classes, but several of them you're teaching basic combination for jewelers and then also decorative stone setting. Can
Yeah.
you tell me a little bit more about that for those who don't know?
The combo is sort of like the first part of actually decorative setting, because the whole idea with decorative setting, that's where we bring it all together into engraving and stone setting and making really interesting compositions with, just really intricate details that make things more interesting for people. And it's very eye catching. And I've been sort of working with that idea for years. I mean, I remember when Josh and I first met each other, we went to snag some symposium or something like that. I was doing it way back then, and because I've always been involved in the Edwardian and Art Deco type styles, and I've always really enjoyed the fact that they combined geometry and the organic and the engraving and piercing and stone
Yeah.
setting, and it just really helped refine my skills overall. It was really a great experience because now I have this big picture of how to bring it all together. And I even, did casting and actually fabricating rings, with pieces. So that was a great experience for me. And then I could bring it on to my teaching now and really be a good teacher. So that was a really big deal for
You
me.
you haven't always taught like a combination of engraving and stone setting, right? Like, did you start off teaching basic stone setting, or what did you start off teaching?
My very first class at GRS, it was interesting. It was right after I took the Grand Masters back around 2005, I think, or something, going way back. Wow. Um, got an offer to be instructor, and I thought that was awesome that they would recognize me, and it was a real blessing. So I got to do my first class was lettering, basically lettering. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, I start developing all the like stone setting classes and jewelry classes, because at that time there really wasn't anything there, and worked with GRS to have that and all the tools and all the burrs, and that story. There's a lot to it.
Yes.
It's just, man, kind of blew their mind. Like they're like, whoa, this is a lot of stuff. But it was great because we got going on it, because it's, wherever you go in the world, people are using GRS's stuff, and it's in jewelry making. And that was a big deal for me, and great opportunity to all, like I said, bring everything together into some classes that would actually start bringing that into the teaching program. So that was really cool.
That's huge props to you, Todd, because I mean, like the stone setting classes are the first ones to sell out now.
Yeah,
Like they're huge. So
yeah, they are. It was cool. It's funny. I think I've probably just about taught all the classes that are being taught at one time or another, because we had like basic. First, we had like a basic, then we had sort of an advanced, introduced to micro pave class. And then from there, we did some other advanced classes, and then some introduction to pave classes, and basically just grew like crazy. Like you said, everybody's interested in it, and that's a good thing. We have
mhm.
programs that people want.
This episode is brought to you by Greggy Help. Because ignoring your broken tool is not actually fixing it. Whether your handpiece is crying for help or just silently judging you, Greggy Help is here. Head to greggyhelp.com and use promo code MOLLY for 10% off your first repair. Greggy Help. Denial is not a repair strategy. What would you say your favorite class has been to teach so far?
I think it's got to be the decorative setting because I do
Yeah.
that still. You know what I mean? I do that, and I even want to try to make that grow. You know what I mean? Trying to get the next step to that coming up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And sort of expand on that idea even more, possibly
Like an
three-dimensional
advanced
shapes.
level.
Yeah, advanced level, maybe three-dimensional shapes, that type of stuff, and just really
Hmm.
expand on that idea. Always have some type of engraving with the stone setting. We can have people learn both aspects. Because in the past, it was funny because people would declare that they were either a stone setter or an engraver.
Yeah.
And it just blew my
Yeah.
mind. I'm thinking, you guys are using the same tools. Why would you not expand yourself into something even more? But it was not really expected of people. So they just sort of settled with that. And it just really blew my mind that they would do that. I was thinking, that just doesn't make sense.
Even now, I feel like a lot of the engravers, like occasionally you'll see a flush set stone, put into the work, but not, you don't really see it expanded towards the stone setting side. The jewelers, yeah, it totally makes sense for them to add the engraving portion, but maybe that's just not what they were asked of in their shop. Do you think that was it?
Traditionally, with engraving, they just never went to that part. They never saw the fact that that would be an interesting aspect of their engraving. I think that's kind of a shame because it just narrows their abilities down where I think they could easily probably do it because they're still have that hand and eye coordination. I mean, the thing that I always try to tell my students, I said, taking a chance on something and making a mistake is part of the process of learning. I mean,
Hmm.
we all do that. If you don't try to push yourself into a possibility of a mistake, you'll never really know your full potential. I mean, you'll never know that you could go there. I mean, if you ever look at any elite programs, they're always pushing people to where they're making a mistake or something, but then they know,
Yeah.
hey, I went past where I was before, where I thought I could never go.
Is there something that you have not taught yourself yet or learned that you've always wanted to learn?
There are definitely some things that I want to do that would make things really edgy, artistic.
Hmm.
So I want to do that. I want to try to maybe add in some like anodized metals, and
Hmm.
use color stones
It's so
with the
cool, some of the stuff that they do
yeah,
with that now.
yeah. So I have all the equipment. It's just sitting down there.
Yeah. You just got to get the
So
time to mess around with it.
yeah, that's the thing. As far as I really would love to be able to just put out some real art pieces.
You tend to bring a lot of mathematics in, but I would say you're more free flow. Would you agree? How do you explain your teaching style?
Well, the reason why I do that is I try to be connected with the student emotionally because you can tell when a student is becoming crushed, and you got to be able to sort of shift the pace a little bit to let them kind of almost recover, and then you go back to it. So if you
Yeah.
don't do that, I don't want to be just a demonstrator. I want to be a teacher. And if
Mhm.
they're just being kind of like lost and overwhelmed and all that kind of stuff, I'm not teaching. I'm just
Mhm.
showing them what I can do. And that doesn't, I mean, I want them to see what I do, and I don't mind if they do what I do. And I'm actually even honored that they would maybe take some of my things and do it in their work. That's the whole point of teaching. But you have to be able to connect with them emotionally to be able to know, are they really understanding what you're saying? And
Mhm.
if you have those blank faces that are going, oh my goodness, kind of thing, you got to be able to notice that. So therefore, that's why I try to be. I have a structure in my mind, but also have a fact that every class is different, and every student is different, and every student learns a different way. They may learn visually, they may learn tactile methods, they may learn from the ear what they hear, or they may learn from all of that. And that's
Mhm.
where you need to know who's learning from what. Do they learn more from this or that or whatever? So you need to bring that all together to be able to connect with them.
Yeah.
So it's really important in teaching not just to sort of do something visually, because that may be what's not connecting with them, so you got to figure out another way,
Yeah.
so
I think you do it well.
I try.
When I try to explain to people like what GRS is and what my favorite part is, it's always about the people and all of the backgrounds that they come from. Like, you have your cowboys, you have your retired. Who
Yeah.
would you say usually makes up your classes?
Oh boy, I've had everybody. It's funny. I've had gun people. I've had Western. I've had jewelry, but I'd say probably the majority wouldn't obviously be jewelry oriented because they're jewelry oriented classes. But you do have those people that want to expand themselves, which is a really good thing. I mean, they see that they need to learn something new, and so yeah, some of my classes I've had were, I was surprised that there were gun people in there, and gun engravers or engravers of different kind, or it's funny, even the funniest thing I ever had was a group of guys from NASA.
Really?
Yeah, they were hilarious because I was speaking to them about the parallel heel, and they're going, "Oh, we can make a calculation to do this." And I'm like, going,
Yes.
"Guys," I said, "hold on here. All you have to do is add 5 degrees, and you've got it." You know what I mean? And they're going, "Oh, okay."
Yeah,
They're so,
share that tip because I
yeah,
think there's still a lot of engravers who don't like connect those dots. And you
yeah.
told me one time, and I'm like, oh yeah, it really does work. So share that tip, Todd.
That's all it is. 5 degrees. Sometimes you got to go one way or the other, and you know, move this from this direction or that direction. But it's relatively 5 degrees, at the most 7 degrees. You know what I mean? But it's
Mhm.
typically around five, and you can usually modify the face and the heel and all that together and come up with pretty close to 5 degrees. So it's pretty simple. You don't need all
Yeah,
these
to get that
calculations.
parallel heel.
I mean, I love math. I would love to go and throw a bunch of calculations at them. And I've even had people like say, "Gosh, is there anything mathematically we can do to figure this all out?" And I'll make something up, like the spacing calculation, and they're going, "Oh, this is even worse than this is even more difficult than just trying to wait to use because your eye, they say the eye can actually see to probably 10 thousandths of an inch, which is pretty cool.
Hmm.
So in a way, our brain and our body is a calculator. You just have to train it. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
calculates things very well by the eye. And all you have to do is train that and be confident in your way of looking at something. And that's actually what I do in class as well. I said, I can give you a calculation, but I think you would be better off if you can actually see what's going on.
What
So
do you think is the hardest skill for your students to learn?
bright cutting and
Yeah.
actually using it with like script engraving. But any kind of bright cutting, even when you take it with the Anglet number 4 or 2 or whatever you're using, and you have to do a bright cut for a box setting or something, or
Yeah.
even pavé, to be able to use that tool to get a correct bright cut is pretty hard. And if you're trying to do like just when we teach about the lead engravers, the lead left or right, where you have to do a circle that gives you a bright cut. All those take a lot of control to be able to hold your graver in a correct position for an extended period. It's not just a little like this, it's going all the way around or
Yeah, because it's
all the
so
way
flashy,
down.
you see that
Yeah,
little bridge.
yeah, I mean, it's so easy, and where you end your bright cut. Sometimes where you end your bright cut is like the worst spot. You're like if you're doing a box cut, and all of a sudden you do the cut and it's just towards the center, and it just didn't work out, and then you're like, oh man, I got to get that out of there. So you recut it, you recut it, you recut it, and then all of a sudden it's like bowed out like this instead of straight.
I
And
don't know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
right. It's like, no, what do you mean? It's just not that I've ever made that
Can you
mistake.
explain
You
that to me again, please?
know, so that I'd say, yeah, any kind of bright cutting is really pretty challenging for sure. It's something you got to work on. I mean, I love to do script engraving. I probably it's sort of my push-ups and pull-ups. I mean, I do it every day. Actually, I
Really?
do script engraving every single day. It's like I said, push-ups and pull-ups.
Would you say script engraving is still kind of bread and butter as far as engraving goes?
I think it's a part of it, but I think any type of lettering is really a really nice thing to do because you can do some really beautiful things, but it doesn't take you a month to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of
Yeah.
these big projects are really cool to talk about and to show, but when you can create a really beautiful monogram, meaning not just script type engraving encountering, but if you can create a monogram with some script or some bright cuts and some block interesting letters and just put it all together into like sort of like these Victorian monograms, so where they
Hmm.
had a mixture of everything. They're super cool. They're like that's probably one of, speaking of favorite things that I like to do, is actually that, where I can actually bring all these different styles together and put them into a monogram, and they look really interesting.
Hmm.
It's like in the Encyclopedia of Monograms. It's an old famous book, and if you look into that, it has these just really super creative combinations of letters and cutting and all that stuff. That's really amazing. Very three
Yeah.
dimensional too, because you do that. You know.
I think I have that book.
Yeah, it's one that everybody should have. It's just really awesome.
What is your favorite book or your favorite source for information?
Boy, there's just so many things. I mean, I have literally hundreds of books down in my studio. I
I
have,
believe it. I
I
believe it.
have, I have books stacked everywhere. I have
Okay.
books on
What's the one
shelves.
that you find yourself going to the most?
Man, it just goes through stages, where I'll get obsessed with something, and it may be like chip carving from Switzerland, and it's like, what? But
Really?
then it's like you can actually use some of those cuts to do engraving, and you can look at like I said, the encyclopedia and monograms. You can look at certain artists. Actually, I did a project where I did these lilies that were sort of floating, but then I saw the water studies of Leonardo da Vinci, where
Mm,
he has these swirls that go all around, and that's what I did with a liner, a Florentine liner. I made these swirls that would look like the water was moving, and
pretty.
the lilies were like floating on top, and so it was kind of cool to be able to see that and say, oh, that'd be really cool to do with engraving and make something
Hmm.
look like it's floating on water. And it worked out. It was pretty fun.
What would you say is the most rewarding? Like, if your student can take anything away from your class, is the most rewarding thing for you to have them take away?
Well, the takeaway is for them to be successful. That's the most important part. If I can teach them the importance of understanding their tools, because when I was in art school, if you understand how to make your tools and you understand what they do and why you're using them, that is probably one of the biggest things. If they
Yeah.
don't know how to make a tool, or if they don't know why they're even using it, other than like say, I don't know why I use a 105 when I have a 120, or a 120 when I have a 105. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
difference. Actually, one actually has a physical lighter color than the other. So you can use that to create space or lights and darks. You know what I mean? So to be able to create textures and lights and darks and a lot of contrast, it's actually going to make your piece look more three-dimensional. And those are kind of the things that make that, I think, important.
I would say that you're another instructor on that too, where you make so many tools.
Yeah.
There are so many
It
tools
is
you use
funny,
in your class.
and it always is for a reason. Now, when I do projects, I'm like looking at like, well, what could make this more interesting, or what could make this better? And I tell you, it's almost every single project I do, I come up with another tool. Even now,
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't stop thinking that way. I'm just never really a person that says, okay, here's four gravers, or here's four gravers. That's what you use, and go for it. Why not use more, or why not change them, to some degree?
Mhm.
When I painted, or when I would photograph, or whatever, I just remember back in school when I finally realized what that tool did. That's when I could really be successful with that technique.
Student reviews. Were there ever any reviews that really stuck with you?
I'm thankful that all all in all they've been pretty positive, so that's a good thing. um, it's nice if I say something in class like, "Boy, we should try to do this." Maybe like the anodizing or something or whatever, and they're like they put it into the reviews, like, "Yeah, maybe we should have that class." Or
Mhm.
if I say, just basically give an example, and then they actually heard me. you know,
Yeah.
and they suggest that. That's a cool thing.
Okay. Last question, and I think we have to wrap it up a little bit.
Oh, come on.
We can keep talking all day, Todd. You know that.
Good. You're a great person. I appreciate you. You're awesome.
I'm excited to be back. It's going to be good. Okay,
So,
this is my last question. Todd,
okay.
if you
All right.
weren't doing this, what would you be doing for a career?
I love science. I love physiology. I love nutrition. I love sports. You know, it's just like a never ending. I mean, I've done so many things throughout the year. You know me, I've told you all the things that I've done, and it's like, really, can you possibly do anything else? Yes, there's always something else I can do. You know, I've done so many things, cycling and wrestling and martial arts and just everything. It's just like I'm always, if I have time, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, so there's.
Well, I'm glad you're teaching.
Yeah, well, thank you. Appreciate it. I'm glad you're back.
Thank you for spending time with us this morning. We hope you stay tuned for the newest episode of The Angle with our next instructor.